The day of God's wrath. Will Sunday worshippers survive? The day of God's wrath is coming. The question is, will you be able to stand? Many believe that worshipping on Sunday is acceptable because it doesn't matter what day we worship as long as we worship God. But is that really true? Can man override God's commands and still escape judgment? From the very beginning, God established the seventh day, Saturday, as his holy Sabbath. He set it apart as a day of rest, a sign between him and his people. Yet throughout history, religious leaders have sought to change God's law, substituting man-made traditions for divine instruction. The truth about the Sabbath and God's coming judgment. God's law is eternal. In Exodus 20, 8-11, he commands, "Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work." He said, "Remember," because he knew people would forget. And indeed, history shows that a great deception has led millions to ignore this commandment. But Jesus never changed the Sabbath. The apostles never changed it. Nowhere in the Bible is there a command to keep Sunday as the day of worship. Instead, history reveals that the change came through the influence of Emperor Constantine and the Roman Catholic Church centuries after Christ's resurrection. So the question remains, will those who knowingly reject God's Sabbath escape his wrath? Revelation's warning: God's wrath is coming. The book of Revelation warns of a coming judgment where God will pour out his wrath on those who refuse to obey him. Revelation 14, 9-10 declares, "If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God." The mark of the beast is directly tied to worship. It is a test of loyalty. Will you follow God's commandments or the traditions of men? Many believe that this warning does not apply to them because they have been told that Sunday is the Lord's day. But if Sunday worship was not commanded by God, whose mark are they truly accepting? Revelation 12:17 describes Satan's final war against God's people. "And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ." God's faithful people will stand apart in the last days because they obey his commandments, including the fourth commandment, which commands Sabbath observance. The challenge to skeptics and non-believers. Now, here is the challenge. Can you find a single verse where God changed the Sabbath to Sunday? Can you find one command from Jesus or the apostles instructing believers to worship on the first day of the week? The answer is simple. You cannot. The change was made by man, and those who follow it must answer for rejecting God's authority. But the time to repent is now. The time to obey God's truth is now. When the day of his wrath comes, it will be too late. The final call. Will you stand or fall? The choice is before you. You can obey God and receive his seal of protection, or you can continue following man-made traditions and face the consequences of disobedience. Jesus is calling. The truth has been spoken. What will you do with it? Choose today whom you will serve.